I'm Clark Garen, the Jewish Cowboy, with our live debate analysis here on KAKZ Television, Channel 4 in Palm Springs. And for this last debate, we have a very impressive cross-section of people, starting with Michael Segura III. That's you, right, Michael? Uh-huh. And Michael wanted to come on to... he's a student of politics. How old are you?
7.
7, so you're in 2nd grade. Now, did you watch the whole debate with us? What was your impression?
What does that mean?
What was your view of the two candidates? What did you think of Hillary and Trump? What would you think? You told me the other day. What would you?
Well, based on the debate, you watched the debate. Do you have any? Did you notice anything, or what do you think about it?
I think like Hillary Clinton will help the world or something.
Or what?
I think Hillary Clinton will help the world.
What do you say?
I don't know.
Hillary Clinton will help the war.
Oh, well, help the war. Hillary.
World.
Or help the world.
Help the world.
You like Hillary?
Clinton?
Oh, okay. You thought Hillary, you found Hillary impressive on the debate. Okay. And next we have Mara.
Yes.
I'm not going to try that last name.
Fimbres.
Fimbres.
Yes.
And you sound like you have a little Hispanic accent to you.
I do. I'm from Mexicali.
And she works at a rival network, Telemundo.
Telemundo, yes. Hopefully will show coming up soon.
Okay, so what was your first impression of this debate?
It's a tough one. I feel like I'm more independent now than before. You know, I was more sided for Hillary a month back, but now it's tough because you can't really trust her. You don't know where she's going with anything. I mean, with Trump, what he gives you is what we're getting, I feel. But with Hillary, it's tough. So I don't know where I'm going with this one.
You haven't made a decision. Were you?
Not
how
yet.
did you feel about Mr. Trump's performance tonight?
I thought he was very prepared, I guess you can say, for this one. He held himself back a lot because, as we saw before, he's very open and says
He was more like an adult
exactly.
than a 7-year-old.
Exactly. But you can see him with his gestures trying to, holding himself back as far as trying to rebuttal. But I thought he was a little better than what he was.
Miss Jeanette.
Howdy.
Howdy. And Miss Jeanette works with producing television, right?
And film.
And films. She's kind of in the business. So what did you take away from watching this debate?
I feel that Donald and Hillary have graduated from the 3rd grade to, I would say, the 7th grade.
Promoted.
You don't think they're ready for prime time yet?
3 more debates maybe and they'll get it down pat. And then this country will be all right.
Okay, let's go back here. Barry.
Sir.
Barry sells the devices that they put in your body when you need knees and ankles and shoulders. He sells the devices and helps the doctors figure out how to put them in.
That's correct.
So what did you think of this debate?
I agree with the young lady here that Donald Trump held himself back a little more, a little bit more professional. Today, I think he missed several opportunities to contradict Hillary's record, especially on the Clinton Foundation. I mean, it's well published by her own IRS filings that only 5.7% of the money goes to charity, but she got up there and said 90% goes to charity and didn't even question. Nothing by Trump. It's like sometimes he pulls it, out of somewhere, but he doesn't do enough studying for a debate like this. I think he could have done a lot better. Of course, I'm not a fan of Hillary's, but I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump's either. So,
Miss Cheryl Kaufman, you're a realtor, right?
Yes, I am.
What was your takeaway from this debate?
Oh, well, I sort of have to agree that they did graduate up a few grades of bickering.
Do you think they're in high school yet?
I don't know if they're in high school yet. Trump, I was pleased that, yes, he did hold back and he could have fired at Hillary a lot more than he did. But I'm a little scared for our country because it's such an undecided debate of what's going on. And I really don't want to leave this beautiful country, but I'm looking at property in Costa Rica.
That brings us to Miss Zoe, who had similar thoughts last time she was with me. Now, Miss Zoe is a freshman at Palm Desert High School, right? Yeah. I got that right, okay. And so what was your take? First of all, do you think that they're at high school level?
No.
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 They haven't graduated yet.
No.
What was your takeaway from the debate?
I believe that Donald Trump had much more of a plan that he could follow than Hillary Clinton. But I also believe that when they were mentioning the 2020s, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my year. That is, I graduated at 2020, and then that's when I am. And it's almost like it scares me. It's like, I'm going to be 18 then. I'm going to be a mess because there's going to be nothing to back me up or support me.
Okay. Mark.
Yes.
Mark owns MSI Mobility. He makes the devices for when the implants that Barry sells don't work and people don't have limbs. Mark figures out devices so that they can still function. It's called Gaining Independence, One Gadget at a Time. And he primarily does work for veterans. So what was your takeaway from the debate? What influenced you the most?
I think that when you're talking about reaching a high school level, you got to also consider that I look at Trump and I want some big change. I've lived this. I've been up and down. I've been through terrible economies. And if you're talking about graduating from the lower level to up, somebody that's been in this business for 30 years is still being considered in the third grade. And Trump has been doing this for 1 year. And his views and his points are really based on his own personal experience about running a company. And I'm looking at a country that is not working. I mean, you don't have to be a politician to know it doesn't work. And so I don't see how you can look at anything other than a change has to be done. And I don't believe Hillary offers any change. I believe she is as corrupt as it is a system, whether she chose to be that way or because she's been surrounded it for so long that she's just become it. And people just become so immune to it, they get used to it. And even when they get called out on it, it's like they don't even aware that they're doing something wrong. And no fault of her own. You can take anybody and put them in a bad environment, and after a while, they become part of that environment. So you got to surround yourself with what you want to become in life, and I think I'd rather surround myself with somebody like Trump, somebody that is trying to win something, than to just keep it the same. I don't want to keep it the same.
I skipped you, Miss Dawn.
Yes,
I apologize. So what was your take from Dawn is an attorney and has quite a background. She was an opera singer at one point in time, sang with Pavarotti. And what were you, a Rhodes Scholar? Or?
Well, I judged the Fulbright.
You judged the Fulbright Scholarship.
But I was at Oxford, though, but not under the Rhodes.
Oh, you were at Oxford.
And
okay.
I was at Harvard, though. I graduated Harvard.
Okay.
And Palm Springs High.
Yeah, I can't even spell Oxford. So. What
Palm
was?
Springs High.
And she's also.
I love her shoes.
And she's also been. Well, you can't see that, folks. One of the things we do here. I know all the other networks love the show gorgeous women with their legs, and we do content over here. I'm sorry. You gotta go to one of the other networks.
Yeah.
So what was your take on the debate?
Well,
Maybe that's because my legs stink. But
well, as you know, I know Donald, and my opinion, first of all, is that he was very tired tonight. I felt that he was tired, and his energy was, I mean, I think if he had slept for 7 days like Hillary did, he would have, he might not have missed that thing about the Clinton Foundation, or maybe he would have hammered her a little more, but I think he was also trying to hold himself back, which is very difficult for him to do because everyone in the world knows how he is. And he loves to fight, and he's used to it. He grew up and not in Manhattan, outside of Manhattan, in the New York area, and where people learn how to be fighters. And so I was a little surprised that he wasn't a little more. His energy was a little lower. Let's put it that way. And he in television understands that you have to have a certain level of energy to project. And I thought he did well, though. I mean, his points were well. The WikiLeaks thing is very strong in his favor right now. And I thought
his lower energy level was a good thing for him.
Well, for him, yeah, I guess. Yeah, but I'm just saying, I just, because I know him, I just saw certain things in different places where I thought, oh yeah, he's a little tired, he would have grabbed that one. Oh, he doesn't seem to be, but then again, I don't know what his handlers have been telling him, even though he doesn't like to listen to anybody. But I think he was trying to be more presidential, which is not his natural seat. He doesn't really.
Well, as I think the lady back here pointed out, I guess it was Mark pointed that out. Hillary's been doing this for 30 years, and he's only got a year at it.
That's
so
right.
He's still learning.
But the thing that I did find, I don't think it's scary when you look in terms of his business background, and we need somebody that understands business in this country to get things set right. Because, I think one of the things that's been misunderstood in terms of Trump is that when you get to know him, you see that he really is not a racist. I know he loves beautiful women, but so do most men, but they know how to hide it a little better. No, I mean, no, it's the truth.
What is he talking
It's the
about?
truth.
We're going to get on to that. You're taking my thunder. We're going to do women a little later.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Fred,
yeah,
what was
sorry.
your take? Fred is a retired entrepreneur.
Well, it's I've kind of got a defeatist attitude. It's hard for the Republicans. Well, basically, if I look back at it objectively and not be a right-wing Republican, which I am, but if the American people, you got two choices. You got a politician that's been spending money for 30 years, and you got a billionaire that is, I believe his only motivation is, he truly, because he can make a lot more money than being president, is to go in and fix this country. And he knows how to do it, and as he said, he's going to bring his wealthy friends that know how to negotiate, do our trade agreements, for instance. He's built businesses, he's lost businesses, he's won some, he's won several, okay? But he knows how, I mean, this is a huge problem. We have a huge economic crisis. We have a huge immigration crisis from a safety standpoint. And, just that one issue, open borders versus, restricted immigration, I mean, that's why England got out of the euro, so they could stop migration of Muslims. Muslims, they're worse than terrorists. When they migrate, they don't migrate in and mix in. They set up nests.
Well, let's stop it, Fred. What you're talking about is being a melting pot. Our strength as a country has always been that we're a melting pot. Different cultures come in here, they blend together and be part of one. And the characteristic Fred's referring to is that for some reason when Muslims come here, they stay tribal. They don't blend, they don't melt, they stick to their own traditions. And for my viewers who were not watching this show a couple of weeks ago, the perfect example of this is the gentleman who placed all those pressure cooker bombs in New York and New Jersey. He was, I believe, I'm not sure if he was born here or immigrated here, but he grew up here. He basically became, for all intents and purposes, an American. He went to high school here, was very successful in high school, and then it became a Romeo and Juliet story, West Side Story story. He fell in love with this Hispanic girl from the Dominican Republic. His father, who was very successful, had a little restaurant, refused to accept her. She got pregnant and had a kid. She would stand out the store with the kid and the father wouldn't accept it. The father did everything he could do to undermine their relationship. The kid tried to move out and be on his own, couldn't get a job, finally broke off with the girlfriend, moved back home, and Daddy takes him over to Afghanistan, takes his passport, and leaves him there so he can become identified with his Muslim culture. Daddy is very much disapproving that this guy becomes an American. And then he ends up being so completely confused, he ends up coming back here and he ends up becoming a terrorist as he got radicalized. So whose fault is all this? It's a culture that doesn't blend. And one of the things Peg's pointed out, Peggy Costello, one of our regular panelists, has pointed out to me is our problem is usually not with the immigrant generation, but with the first generation that grew up here. Anyway, I'm going to go on here to John Eckhart, and John is in real estate. What was your take from the debate?
The longer I don't know why, maybe it's my age, but I watched the debate, and for some reason I have these flashbacks back to the 60s. I suppose I was at his age, you know, when John F. Kennedy was shot. And for some reason I just stopped in time, and I see where we are today. In my wildest dreams, at his age, I always thought that the middle class would be much better off than they are today. That's my biggest disappointment. So when I see this, from the Nixon, the Vietnam Wars, and I see all this, it's like a prelude to when's the other shoe going to fall. We've already had 9/11, and now we've got the elections. And the anticipation in America is strange because nobody really knows right or left, right or left. It's really confusing.
There's no consensus. There's just two halves pulling in a different direction.
And I think Mark Twain said it. If you feel yourself going the direction with the masses, you know you're going the wrong way.
But now we just have two masses.
Now you got two masses
going the opposite
way with probably the right intention. I just don't like the let's hang them, let's kill them, let's make them bleed. That part I don't like in politics. It's dirty. It's a dirty business. It's a dirty career. I suppose to even get into that to begin with. Like,
doesn't have to be.
You know, but birds of a feather flock together in any industry.
It doesn't have to be.
And as far as migration of people, the Irish did it, the Asians do it. You know, everyone comes over here to be in a comfort zone, but then eventually they spring out like a flower. They integrate, they marry. But every one of them.
Gotta stop you from banging on the table.
Oh, yeah,
Mike doesn't like it.
Yeah, but that's kind of my thinking on immigration, and because every society.
Well, I was curious what you thought about the debate.
The debate, I think it's going to be. I was really proud. I thought Trump did a pretty good job tonight because he did restrain himself. I think the
That's
nation,
a pretty low standard.
I really think.
But maybe not for him.
If you do the feng shui on it, they say Hillary, because of the wooden fire, she's going to be the president. I really don't know.
I don't think anybody knows. This is Peggy Costello, who is a retired European history teacher from a fairly urban school district. Affluent, okay. I was trying to find the word. See, she's also an English teacher, so she corrects me all the time. And we've been friends for almost half a century now. What did you think of the debate?
I think it's so unfortunate that we have to say, gee, they behaved themselves better tonight than they have in the past. I mean,
well, let me ask you, did either one of them behave better than your former continuation school students?
Quite honestly, they're in high school, and this crew is not. We've already determined that. So, I will tell you that I have been watching this week with tremendous interest the WikiLeaks. And for Hillary to just completely skip over it and immediately get into it's the Russians that are spreading this information. And I want to say, whoever's spreading it, is it true? I want the details on it.
But, Peggy, when she says the Russians are doing it and doesn't say it's a lie, that is an admission that it is true.
But did everybody pick that up that was watching the debate? That's the
Well, they do. All our viewers are picking it up now. When she doesn't deny it, it means it's true. If it, you heard Donald, whenever he said something was false, he said, hey, that's false. And she didn't have any problem being animated and interrupting. Apparently she got her nap in because...
Yeah.
Mary, what did you... This is Mary Fitzpatrick, one of my partners in the station here. What did you think?
I think it was a sad situation.
You went back in grade school, huh?
First grade.
First grade.
I've heard it all. I've heard all of the, I watch news 24/7 at our house, so it's like, you hear it all.
Now, is that your choice or his choice?
His choice.
Oh.
So I turn it off. I can't tolerate it any longer. I'll be so glad when the election's here.
Okay, Jim Fitzpatrick, who is my other partner in crime here. What did you think?
Same old program, different day. I am going to go with Donald and just pray.
What exactly is it that you're praying for?
That he gets himself together and puts his programs together, because I think he has the ability. One of the things that is missing in all of the government that Donald Trump can fix, and when he does it, productivity will jump. It's called "You're Fired." The biggest problem, one of the biggest problems we have in the government, nobody's ever fired, no matter what they do.
So
They
true.
steal money, they do whatever. And when it looks like they're gone, they are gone. They've transferred them to another area, given them a raise. But it's, at any rate, I just pray that Donald will come through.
Joel, this is Joel Ontiveros, who owns the airport car wash. And what's the name of the lube shop across the street?
Haviland Express Lube.
Haviland Express Lube. And this is Joel's first time here. What did you think of this debate? Oh, by the way, he's with Mara.
Now. Very different views. Being a Republican, Mexican immigrant, migrated when I was 21.
Wait a minute, there is such a thing as a Republican Mexican immigrant.
He's right there.
Is he the only one?
I think he's not the only one I know.
No, I don't know if it's because I've been in business for so long, but I tend to view the Republican Party as who stands behind me when I need them and when I need to grow as a person and in business. And what's sad now, I just want to say we do still live in the greatest country of all. To begin with, it's.
And you've been in other countries, so
I've been
you
to
know
many countries
you
and
have
traveled a lot.
really quite an amazing immigration
and I do
story.
recommend Costa Rica to live in. We've been there a few times, and it's great. But it's kind of at one point sad to see to know that we're actually looking to see who's the least worst of the candidates instead of seeing who is the best of the candidates. So that's, to me, the sad part of this whole election.
Now, how do you think we got to this point that we're looking at who's the least?
Well,
worst?
I had a better Republican candidate than what we have now, but I'm going to stick with the one we
Who
have.
was the one you had?
Cruz.
You liked Cruz.
I like Cruz. I like Cruz for everything he stands for, and I like his views and all that. And now we have Trump. Now we have to stand behind him, and hopefully, like this gentleman said, he's a little scary because he might turn the other way. But at this point, we need to stand by him and hope that he does the right thing and keeps us straight.
And last but not least, you were hoping I was going to forget you. This is Paul, who actually works in film and television. He works with sound. We have him out here, so we can't criticize ours because he can't hear us.
It sounds great.
So, what was your take from the debate?
I felt it was a lot of controlled desperation on both candidates' parts. I'm probably the only Democrat here, or...
No, you're not! No, you're not! No, there!
I'm just as worried about our situation here as everybody else. I think Democrat, Republican, we're really in a kind of a desperate time right now because we have two candidates that we're not totally 100% behind. And,
That's an understatement.
and you know, that's a scary part for us. And I don't like being put in the position of choosing the lesser of two evils. I'm going to have to make a choice.
Yeah, it's always that.
As a Democrat, have you decided what you're doing yet?
Yes, I'm voting for Hillary.
You are voting for Hillary.
And it's,
Did you see anything tonight that made you rethink that?
There were some issues that I was very concerned about that she did not bring up or did not defend herself on WikiLeaks, for one, that made me think twice. I said, well, maybe I won't vote because I'm not going to vote for Trump.
Why is it that you won't vote for Trump?
I'm afraid that he is very a reactive type person, and I want somebody who's
You're buying Hillary's argument. We can't have him near the nuclear button.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, if he does become president, I will stand by him. I think the United States is the greatest country in the world. I've lived and worked on pretty much every continent there is. There's not a better country on this planet.
You hear that, Miss Zoe?
Yeah. So, for better or for worse, I'm an American.
I'll take care of this, get you when you leave.
And yeah, I hope Hillary wins, but I'm not going to run off.
Well, I'm gonna indulge and tell you a story that I've been thinking about with Trump. And there's an old movie that this situation reminds me of. It's called the Caine Mutiny. They did a Broadway show of it, but the real definitive work was a movie with Humphrey Bogart, who played a kind of a captain who was a little bit unbalanced. And Van Johnson was his executive officer, and he was very much a paranoid, and he thought everybody was out to get him, and the crew didn't like him, and basically there was a schism where everything the crew did was pick on him and so on, so he became more and more into his shell, and finally they had a typhoon, and the executive officer felt he had to take over the command of the ship to save it. And then they have a trial about it, and Van Johnson gets a great lawyer who manages to make Humphrey Bogart come apart on the stand, one of the finest pieces of acting you've ever seen. Also is noteworthy in the Caine Mutiny, in Yosemite National Park they used to have something called the firefall, where they build a fire up at Glacier Point and push it off. They stopped that in the late 50s, but if you go see the Caine Mutiny, there's a scene where you actually see the firefall. Anyway, to get to the point of the story, after the guys are all celebrating their win, their lawyer gets drunk and goes over and basically is very unhappy with them, and they say, look, the captain came to you and asked for your help. If you had accepted that and reached out to help him, would this issue have arisen? Executive officer, you're an honest man. Would you have had to take it over if you had given him the support when he asked for it? And he said, you're right, maybe I wouldn't. Then he goes on to make his famous line, you don't obey the captain because you feel like it. You obey and respect the captain because that's your job. And if he doesn't succeed in his job, you are no good as a supporting officer. And I've been thinking about, Trump went out, he won this nomination fair and square, and from the time he succeeded, there have been people in the Republican Party who have been doing their best to undermine him. He didn't expect the support of Democrats, but he got more trouble from Republicans than he ever did from Hillary or Democrats. And now some of them I respect. For example, George Will and Mary Matalin, they at least had the integrity to leave the party. They became independents or libertarians and announced it. I can't support Trump, I'm leaving the party. But the rest of them who stayed in the party and just undermined the candidacy of Trump have to bear some major responsibility for the way this man has ended up conducting his campaign. Yeah, he's erratic. Yeah, he says a lot of things that are kind of not really defensible. But he's somebody who's always getting knifed from behind. And how much does that bear a role in what we're seeing from him? And I want to particularly go and address the tape with Mr. Bush that materialized on, what was it, Good Morning America, or, no, that was his show. I forget what it was, on the bus tour. Entertainment Tonight. And the comments were atrocious. There's just no way of defending it. But my question is, what role did the Clinton campaign have in their being brought forward? I wouldn't have asked this question until I saw the tapes that I have seen over the last 2 days on Fox, because Fox is the only network that'll play it, of operatives being paid by the Clinton campaign, actually going and staging violence at the Trump rallies, being very pleased that they were able to cancel his rally in Chicago. These was done by, talk about the, you know, when Richard Nixon did dirty tricks like that, people went to prison for it. And they lost their law licenses. David, I forget what his last name was, or not Donald Segretti lost his license for doing that, law license. And they're on tape being proud about it. Do I think that Hillary had nothing to do with it? I'm not going there. And I can't imagine how humiliating it is to have these private conversations dredged up and for everybody to hear. But it's going to lead me to another question, which we're going to go to. Some of you ladies know I was going to do this, some of you didn't. But in my discussions about this groping issue for a while, I've come to realize some things which we'll illustrate here in a little bit. I'm going to ask, Peggy, I'm going to start with you. Have you ever been groped?
I don't like the term grope or copperfield. Let's call it what it is.
What is it?
Sexual assault.
Okay. Have you ever had that?
Yes. Back in 1971, on a sunny day in Toledo, Spain, I was drinking a bottle of mineral water and some guy came right up the front of my dress and hung on. I released his grip with the bottle.
On his head.
You got it.
And you had a very long dress on, did you not?
I did. I had what I called a church dress. I was trying to respect a conservative Catholic culture, and it was midi with long sleeves and a high neck, and it didn't do me any good.
It wasn't provocative in any way.
No. I was there to see the art and the architecture and prepare information for my art history classes. And as I say, I was a victim, and I did not like it. He attacked me, and I defended myself.
What happened next?
Oh, they took me to the police station. Then I had to listen to a lot of Mickey macho garbage about what is the matter with me. American women go there as tourists for sex. And, you know, I said, well, obviously that's not the case here. And if this man can't learn not to attack women, at least maybe he'll learn not to attack American ones with bottles in their hands.
Did they finally let you go?
Yeah, they let me go. The guy woke up, and they decided he was okay. As demented as before or after I hit him with a bottle. I was able to go.
Mary, have you ever had the experience of being groped or whatever Peggy wants to call it?
Yes, I was attacked as a teenager by a family member. And I fought him off. And it was quite an experience.
Miss Zoe, have you ever, I'm hoping to hell I don't get a yes from you. Any experience, are you with your dad there, do you want to plead the fifth?
I want to plead the fifth.
Okay. Miss Cheryl, have you ever had an experience being groped?
Yes, I would have to say more than once.
By strangers, complete strangers.
Complete strangers. Okay? Now, yes, both times were in a public place that is a bar, and I do not approve of it, but a woman can defend herself. And I threw a drink and slapped him right off the bar stool.
Boy, I got some tough women on this panel. I'm going to have to be careful. Miss Dawn, have you ever been groped?
Yes, on many occasions. Not many, but like she said, more than one, definitely. Because I travel, and when you travel, even people that you would never expect. For example, I was going to New York, and the plane was redirected to Newark. And so they all put us in buses, and then they took us to the trains. So I go, oh, okay, I'll get on a train. But then the train stopped while we were still in New Jersey. And I didn't know any places around, so I went up to the police officer. And I said, do you know any hotels around here that are near the station? I don't want to be wandering around because at the time it was like 1:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. I said, I don't want to be wandering around by myself and this and that. He goes, oh yeah, I know a place. So he drives me over, and he actually walked into my hotel room. So I'm thinking, and then he sits down. And you get that feeling that something's off and the guy's not going to go. And you're going to have to deal with the situation. And I'm thinking even ahead of that, because I'm thinking this is a man with color of authority. That's why, I have other situations, but that's why that one was particularly upsetting to me. And I thought I could end up killed if I don't watch how I handle this. So I go into the bathroom. I say, excuse me a second, I got to go to the ladies' room. I go in the bathroom, and I'm a person that I'm a very, I live my life for the Lord, so I really had it out with God. Mm-hmm. It was hardcore. I said, you got to get me out of this. This is bad. This could be the end. I said, I'm not ready to die tonight, please, or be raped or any of this. I said, So I came out, and I met with a guy, and I said, okay, I am so happy that you are a law enforcement agent and that I've had the opportunity to meet you and you've come over to my hotel room here because I know that your objective is to protect and to serve. That's how I started it. And I ended up having to preach to the guy all night long until the sun came up. But I kept him at bay. Because you could see when his mind started, it was like a fight in his head, and I kept bringing him back. I could tell, because, you can tell by comments, when someone's going off the rails. So when the sun came up, though, he did like a 180, and he says, oh, you've been preaching to me all night. He paid my hotel room. He gave me a ride. He gave me $100.
Wow.
So I thought, wow, thank you, Lord. And that was just one of my many stories. Wow. I've got quite a few of them.
Jeanette, have you ever been groped by a stranger?
Yes, multiple times.
Pardon?
But multiple times. I will share one of the times, which was a few years ago back in San Diego. About 3 or 4 neighbors and I were walking down the street, and one of them was fairly drunk. He was about twice my size, and he started stumbling into the street, and being a good girl, I grabbed him to prevent him from falling and all that, but once he came back onto the sidewalk, he grabbed my hiney, and at that point I grabbed him by the collar and I shoved him against the wall and I shouted at him, don't you ever do that again. And then I walked away from the crowd. And then since he was my neighbor, it was hard to avoid him, but pretty much every time for a few weeks he would apologize to me whenever he saw me. And that was it.
Mara, how about you?
Nope, I haven't. I can't say I have.
By me.
Maybe because I've always had
Strangers.
men. Yeah, maybe I've always had him around.
Well, now this is absolutely astounding to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 women here. And 5 of them have had this experience. Now, I'm going to start over here. Does this surprise you, Barry?
Deeply. I'm deeply surprised by how many of these women this has happened to. I'm stunned and losing
Mark?
faith in humanity.
I'm surprised about the numbers.
Paul?
No.
You're not. Oh, you're in the film industry. That is. Jim, are you surprised? Joe?
I'm not surprised. I don't know if,
Well, I could say something there, but I'm not going to.
That's Brian. Going back a little real quick on Donald Trump's comments on the boss, after knowing that, I'm not going to defend him. He's got to take responsibility for what he did and for what he said. And I think he did. He apologized and he's taking responsibility. But, 5 out of 6 women here in this room has happened to it. So, do we believe that he did do what he said?
That's not where I'm going. We can't know.
Or did.
That's not where I'm going. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna have this show go down to the point of whether we think he did or
Well,
he didn't.
it doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
Shocks me.
Shocks.
Shocks you that many?
Raised as a good Catholic boy and grew up in the Midwest.
John, how about you?
5 out of 7 women.
I'm not really shocked.
But you are surprised.
I'm surprised because I think it's a cultural thing.
Yes.
I really think it's culture.
Well, I have to say that this is why I decided to ask this question, as I have been discussing this with different people around my circle. I started out listening to these charges against Trump, and I said, this is crazy. Who behaves like this? And as more and more of my friends who were women started sharing with me, I started looking at this and I started reassessing. I began to realize how much bigger a problem it is than I ever knew. My heart goes out to each of my guests who had to deal with this, and I really kind of extend my apology for invading your privacy on that. But I did it for an important reason, that men sit and listen how Trump is losing all the women. And we can't understand that. I mean, a lot of us say, well, what's the big deal with this stuff? But 5 out of 6 women here had a similar experience to what these women allege against Mr. Trump. And it doesn't matter whether they made it up or not. Pardon?
Do they have proof that he groped women?
No, that isn't where I'm going. It doesn't matter whether he did it or not. These women who share that common experience of having had that done to them, having had their privacy invaded without permission, without consent, when they hear they think of their own experiences, and it just hits a certain hot button on them that says, I can't deal with this. Peggy, am I right about that?
That you can't deal with it?
I mean, you can't deal with it in it becomes much more important whether the fact that he's accused of that and what he said becomes much more important to you because of your experience.
Yes, and I do believe women need to speak up for themselves. I do believe they need to defend themselves. And I think you saw that happening here with women when they had this experience.
Nobody here was a victim, which is not surprising because I pick women who are to be on these panels who are not victims. I pick women who give it to me, and man, do they all. So, Mary, does that create a certain knee-jerk reaction when you hear that? And remember your experience, it makes it difficult for you to analyze these charges unemotionally?
I heard the tape of the voices on when he was on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he got off the bus, he didn't act that way.
Mm-hmm.
I thought for him it was because he is so macho that he was talking it up. But when he got off the bus, I noticed that he didn't, attack the girl or try to kiss her.
He was a perfect gentleman.
Yes, he was. And that to me is kind of contradictory to all of these other women that are coming out. Now, if there had been a couple of women that came out and said that he did something, I would say, okay, he probably did. But 9 women, after all these years coming out, I am a little skeptical about that.
How about, let's see, how about you, Mara? Are you skeptical about all these claims? You're the only one who hasn't been a victim.
Well,
but you're young. You have much life to live. You too may have the experience.
That's true. Well,
and you have a good role model here from each of these women about how to fight back.
Yeah, no tequila. Huh?
And no tequila.
No, there's this. How do you?
Well, I think it's like she was saying. I think him saying this was more like a show, to present to the men around him or whoever was around him.
On a mic he didn't know was open.
Exactly. But then outside, when he's in front of the women, he might be what he says. He respects women 100%, and which is what we've seen. We haven't seen him groping anyone or being that way towards a woman. So it's just that way. I mean, it's just a show.
Jeanette, what do you think?
As far as whether it's all true?
Yeah, what's and how you evaluate it? How do you use how does your experience, your personal experience, affect your ability to evaluate these charges and how important they are to you in making your decision?
Well, the thing about victims, no matter what the action was, is a lot of times victims feel guilt and shame and all that, which keeps them quiet. But as far as Donald's victims go, same with Bill Cosby, probably. It just takes one person to open up and stand up for themselves and say, he did this to me, and it doesn't matter that it was 20,000 years ago or whatever. But that helps the other victims come out as well and make them feel less shame or that they.
Now, are you at all? Are you trying to equate what Cosby is accused of with what Trump is accused of?
That's what CNN's told me. Like my CNN headlines. My home
You mean the Clinton News Network?
Kind of.
Okay, I'm gonna take an editorial piece here. Trump is accused of basically taking his hand and exploring places he had no right to explore and kissing people who didn't want to be kissed. Cosby is accused of secretly giving people drugs which caused them to become unconscious, after which he engaged in sexual behavior.
But where's the cutoff line for what is when it's wrong? Because it's wrong too.
I'm not saying that it's wrong. It's the difference of are you guilty of doing 70 miles an hour in a 65-mile zone, or are you guilty of mass murder? And that's about what I see as the difference between the two. I'm curious. So, what do you think, Peg? The difference between the two?
I think that the behavior is there. We've been listening to it from the very beginning with the primaries on a number of women. He always seems to be looking at a woman's appearance and giving his opinion of it and so on. I think that we need to be conscious of that. Do I think he should be equated with Bill Cosby? Well, you're going to be, as a lawyer, telling me that Bill Cosby hasn't gone to court yet. So we don't know, but the behavior.
No, he actually has been to court. That's what's hanging him, are the transcripts of his testimony in court.
But it isn't finished yet. And the point is, Clark, the behavior is egregious. There is a difference between them, but we're talking about the future president of the United States. And behavior is unacceptable. I think enough women have come forward, and it has been mentioned, sometimes the shock of being handled like that, like you don't matter, you're a thing being grabbed, is enough to cause a kind of paralysis. And I think it's true that when one woman speaks up, she gives courage to others. Just because I hit a guy over the head with a bottle doesn't mean that I think necessarily all women are going to do that. But I think it stays with them their entire life that it happened, that they were violated that way. And I think it's something that he hasn't adequately dispelled. It's something that is an issue in this campaign.
Are you still thinking about voting for Mr. Trump despite these issues?
I dislike Hillary Clinton so much.
So would the answer to that be yes?
I'm a mail-in voter who's probably going to wait to the last day and show up at the polls because I really dislike both of them for different reasons.
So at this point in time, Donald's behavior with women has not yet completely disqualified him from your vote.
Well, he has other things, but she has so many things too that yes, I would say at this point, I'm still waiting to see who I can tolerate the most of the least.
Okay, Miss Cheryl.
Yes.
How do these charges by the women affect your analysis of what how you're going to vote on Election Day?
Well, I don't feel that that's enough. I don't approve, obviously, of any man abusing a woman in any way. As we saw with the tape, of course, we're dealing with Donald Trump, who has a very, very large ego, but that's okay. I still like the man. But, so, yes, as the term was used, locker room talk. Okay, I have been around a lot of men that do that locker room talk, even outside the locker room. And I'm sure that half of the male generation has probably done so in the past also. And I think all men are sort of guilty to an degree or so. So
we're
no.
guilty?
I'm just saying, okay, I'm talking, not doing the act itself, okay? So a lot of these 9 women that have come forward.
She's with you, huh, Brad?
No, 9 women that have come forward could be true, could not, okay? But if that was true, Donald Trump is a powerful man, okay, but a wealthy man. If that happened to them a number of years ago, why not have done it then? And I know that we just figure it will go away in hush hush.
Miss Zoe, what do you think?
If I were able to vote, like legally.
No, wait a minute. No, we gotta go with the question I'm asking. How do the accusations...
Yeah, if I were able to
wait a minute,
vote.
let me get the question.
I know the question is.
Okay, good. Tell me the question.
Oh, just say your question. I understand your
Okay,
question.
the question is, how have the accusations about the groping of women affected your decision and whether you would like to see Trump or Hillary elected as your next president?
With those accusations being made and with plenty of evidence that they were actually done, it affects it a lot because it's like saying it's okay for men to be like that because if we're electing a president who's even done that himself, that's like saying it's okay to all the other men because even a president can do it.
So have you seen enough to make you think that he did it?
Yeah, there's 9 women.
Okay. So that made up your mind. You would not like to see him president. Okay.
No.
Now, I believe you were here a couple of weeks ago and you had a different point of view.
I still didn't want Donald Trump or
Oh,
Hillary
you did?
Clinton.
Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot. Okay. Now, Don, you actually know Mr. Trump.
Yes.
Not real well, but you do know him.
Yeah, well, I can say this. Like when I met him back...
Do you, based on your personal
yes.
friendship with him, I'm not going to call it a relationship.
No.
But your personal acquaintance with him,
yes.
do you believe these charges from these 9 women?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Because, let me put it this way. When I met him in 2004, at that time, I wasn't sick, and I looked a lot better than I look now. I mean, that was years ago.
I'm not touching that line of the 50
No. And if he was going to make a move, he would have done it then. And he didn't. He was a gentleman. He was a gentleman.
Let me explain something. Can I explain a little
yes,
bit of it?
Yes, please.
Don is a diabetic who is having problems with her kidney function, and she has to do dialysis, 3 days a week?
Yes, that's correct.
And she's been doing that for a long time, and her health is very precarious, and it's very difficult for her to just get herself up to come here, and I really appreciate her doing it. So that's what she was alluding to. She was saying back then she didn't have these health problems, and she felt that she was much more likely to be somebody who would attract his attention.
Yes.
And
they could have been growth.
Yes.
She was more likely to grow.
Yeah.
Right, that's right. I'm just saying the likelihood was, and I had other incidents in New York actually that were very negative. You know, some guy trying to pull me in, and my arm, I couldn't use my arm, all kinds of weird things like that. But this guy, going into it, I thought he was an idiot, but he was a gentleman. So, but see, having 3 brothers, I've seen those guys when they're with their buddies in action, and if any lady listens to
You're
guys...
smiling like you know what she's talking about.
No, and when they are together with all their buddies, and they are all going on, and sometimes they forgot I was there, it can get really raunchy.
How much money did Magic Mike make? I'm sorry.
Who's Magic Mike?
Channing Tatum and his stripper.
How much money did Mike?
Why do you know about that?
I'm just trying to be fair.
Okay. Now, I'm going to start with you, Miss Mara. What did you think of the debate performance of Hurricane Hillary?
Of her performance?
Yeah.
I think she's a little desperate. Sounded like she's just more frustrated.
What did she do that made you attach the word desperate to her?
Well, I guess more frustrated than anything, because it seemed like the roles switched a little, whereas Donald was a little more...
You mean from the first debate where
Yes.
Donald couldn't keep his mouth shut?
Exactly.
Now she couldn't
now
keep
she
her
was
mouth shut?
interrupting a lot, and she wasn't letting him speak too much, or even Mr. Wallace, when he was trying to stop her, she kept going at it, and it was very unlike her from her other debates. That's where
Which one do you think is the real Hurricane Hillary?
There you go.
Ooh, I think this one. This last one. It brought out her true colors.
She was kind of a witch on wheels tonight, wasn't she?
Yes, when...
And you're supporting her.
I know. That's why I say I'm a little more...
Miss Jeanette,
independent
what
in the
did
middle.
you think of the performance of Hurricane Hillary tonight?
I would say Donald did the hashtag mic drop and won this one because he showed growth, I guess you could say, from the previous 2 debates, and Hillary was...
She'd regressed?
Yes, but she seemed like she didn't care, maybe, as much.
You
Or
think she
felt
thinks she's got it in the
She might have
bag?
felt overconfident,
Yeah,
but
from the last.
at the very end when they had the closing statements, Donald had the better one, I would say.
Don, what did you think of the performance of Hurricane Hillary?
Well, I think being aware myself personally of all the WikiLeaks things that have been coming out, and being aware more precisely of some of the things that she said that were complete lies, like regarding her foundation and things like that. I was very disappointed in her not even addressing some of the direct questions.
What did you expect her to say?
Well, she could at least...
I did it?
Well, she always came up with an excuse before. She was pretty, she's a better...
Well, she did.
I thought she was a better liar before than she was
The
tonight.
Russians are trying to fix the election.
Well, and that was another thing that upset me, because she's warmongering and she's almost on the brink of starting a war. I mean, Putin has pulled back all the ambassadors and all the people overseas. He's told all his people, residents in Russia, to look for the nearest bomb shelter, and they don't even report this stuff. And she's acting like her no-fly zone is nothing. And being a student of international affairs and security, I find that very reckless. And for her to say that Trump is the reckless one and he shouldn't have his finger on the button when she's pushing this country to the brink of war as we speak, to me is just a travesty. I just really...
She's always been a hawk, hasn't she?
Oh! And we're going to be at war if she's president.
Barry, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Don about the war aspects. You know, I'm lean libertarian these days, so I'm more anti-war.
So you want a vote that doesn't count?
Well, I'm gonna have to make a decision, and it's probably going to land in Trump's.
You're gonna.
It's an anti-Hillary vote.
As a libertarian, you like Gary Johnson, who doesn't know anything.
I love Gary Johnson if you just state a script, but if you ask Gary a direct question, he's not so bright. But
that's an understatement. That's like saying Donald's not a diplomat.
He's not a diplomat, and that's another problem. But Hillary did the best she could with everything she had going against her tonight. But I found it just almost unstomachable to watch her tonight.
Cheryl?
Yes, it was tough to watch. She is reckless, for sure. I can't believe coming up with the Russians. I mean, basically saying the Russians are coming, the Russians are coming.
Well,
I mean, it was pretty scary.
Oh, wait a minute. Remember the bit I did about a month ago, I think it was, guys? My editorial was, the dog ate my homework. That's what I said on the FBI report. Miss Zoe, what did you think of the performance of Hurricane Hillary?
I think the Hurricane Hillary, that's the best thing you said.
Is what?
The best thing you said. No, I think her ego is...
Why do you like that?
I think it's funny.
It's it's an alliteration, you know, like Shakespeare. You haven't studied Shakespeare yet, have you?
No, we have, but no, I know what it was. Okay. Anyways, I think her ego was just way too big than who she really is and who she's trying to become.
Mark, what do you think of the debate performance of Hurricane Hillary?
I clearly have seen everything I need to see to make my decision.
You made your decision.
Absolutely. No, I mean, to solidify my decision is clear.
Wait a minute, Miss Zoe, his decision isn't made until he actually casts his ballot.
There you go. So, on that note...
Until then, he's a leaning. What?
You should hear this guy.
Well, listen, when if you're running a company or you're running a country, okay, and something calls in at 3 o'clock in the morning or it's 10 o'clock in the day and a decision has to be made, you cannot have a president that's going to go and hide somewhere for an entire week, rest up for 90 minutes of battle, okay? That is unacceptable in my book. This guy's on the campaign, and anybody, I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican, anybody that can be attacked from all sides, and mostly from his own party, and have survived this long for sustained attacks, okay, not for one day, the entire time, shows up, every day he's up at 6 o'clock, he's tweeting, he has not lost his focus of what he's trying to do, and I have never seen anybody be more attacked than this guy. And you're talking about all these sexual harassment things and stuff like that. In my opinion, if you stop and you ask the same question to the same women, do you think the Democratic Party propaganda machine used the most basic fear and the most basic 101 attack by bringing that out? You can't defend it, you can't go there, but it affects everybody equally. They could have said anything, any of these women. Now whether it's true or not is irrelevant. The Democratic Party and the fact that they would talk 30 seconds on one subject about emails and 30 minutes about women is nothing to do with running the country.
No.
It has nothing to do with the issues that are out here right now today. And I can tell you right now, the Democratic Party, after Bill Clinton lost his license to practice and was basically impeached, okay, they voted him in for a second. They don't care.
Yeah, but
it's okay now that it's the Republican Party they're going after.
He's not running. Hey, Paul, what did you think of the debate performance of Hurricane Hillary?
I think she was nervous. I think she
got a 10-point lead. What the hell is she nervous about?
There's that undecided that could flip. It's.
You think she's nervous about the next release of WikiLeaks?
I would be. no, I think she.
Did she look to you like she had? You're one of the you're the only admitted Democrat. No, you're the second admitted. Do you think she acted like she has something to hide and she was worried that Donald had something else to hit her with she didn't know about?
No. I think she held her own. She didn't do an exceptional job, but she didn't blow it. I think on the opposite side, Donald was more controlled in this. So
who was more presidential?
Hillary.
Okay.
Yeah. Snide remarks, it's character we're looking at right now, and I just don't. You laughed on it, but
I'm sorry.
Well, you got to admit, I mean, basically what comes to mind, as I said before, with these two, it's two prostitutes, each one calling the other a whore.
There you go.
Jim, what did you think of the debate performance of Hurricane Hillary?
Well, I'm older, and so I've had the displeasure of watching her since she was in college. And I can assure you that Trump may have created the problem, but 3 or 4 or 5, possibly 8 of those gals that came forward know the Clintons real well. The Clintons have always been this way. From the time he was governor,
Arkansas.
Arkansas, he was in the drug business,
So you were unimpressed.
That's very true.
Mary, what did you think of the debate performance of Hurricane Hillary?
I think she was a little hesitant because of all of the stuff that's come out of the WikiLeaks. I think probably a lot of that stuff is true as far as she's concerned.
Yeah, she's never said it's not true, has she?
No.
No, she hasn't.
That doesn't imply guilt. And you're saying as a lawyer.
It's an admission.
By not saying it's not true?
Yeah, it really is.
It's an admission.
You know, for example, if I say you were cheating on your wife and you're married and you haven't been cheating on your wife, the first thing you're going to say is that's not true.
Right.
You're not going to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter because the Russians told me about it.
I think they have to blame somebody for all of the misdeeds that they've done, so they're going to blame the Russians.
Joel, what did you think of the debate performance of Hurricane Hillary?
I think because of the lead that she has, she toned it down, and that helped Donald Trump. I think she was not nervous, she just thought she was way ahead, and she just didn't.
She was coasting.
She was coasting, and I think that's going to affect her.
Peg, what do you think of her debate performance?
Well, I'll tell you, I actually think she won the first 2 debates because she had more presence and her better body language. This one, she was very defensive and more on edge. As well, she needed to be given the recent information that's come out. I wouldn't say she won this debate, but I wouldn't give it to Trump just because he behaved better either.
Too low a standard?
Exactly.
John?
I have to agree with her.
Fred?
Who won the debate?
Yeah. No. What did you think of the debate performance of Hurricane Hillary?
You know those clowns that put on permanent smiles and everything?
Neck reach lips.
Okay.
Neck reach lips, I think they call them.
Like
yeah,
the
I
Joker?
can't top. No one's going to top that, Fred. Next and last question. What did you think of the performance by Chris Wallace as the moderator?
Oh, excellent.
John?
I mean, he did a good time. I mean, he almost shut Hillary out. You got her shut up a couple of times.
John?
Honestly, I always liked his dad better. I hate to tell
His dad was, Chris's father was Mike Wallace from
Right.
60 Minutes.
I really like Mike much better.
Peg, what did you think of his performance?
He did a far better job of controlling the 2 of them than the last moderators have done, so I would say A+.
What did you think about the balance of his questions? Do you think they favored either one?
No, I really don't, and typically neither one of them wanted to answer some of them, so they took off on their own tangents.
Yeah.
But I think he did the best possible job given the wily.
Mary?
I would stick with the A+. He did a good job.
Joe?
It's fine. I think that neither candidate answered a question straight out.
If they didn't want to answer it, they didn't want to answer
But
it.
he did a good job.
Jim?
I agree. He did a great job.
They did a fine job.
Had the right questions.
Zoe?
It was equal.
Right questions, A+.
I thought he did a good job, and it was interesting that he said that none of the candidates have had the questions in advance because I believe Hillary Clinton had the questions in advance on the previous two.
She did.
Yeah, she did.
That's a fact.
Mara?
Very patient. So he did good.
He is a splendid couples counselor.
Yeah, there you go.
What do you think, Don?
I don't know. I just know that so many people think that there's so much bias in the press, and there is. So I don't know. I don't know if the Hillary people approved the questions in advance, you know, all that. But just looking at what I saw, I'd say it was better than the last time when she had the questions. I mean, that's cheating in my book,
Well, he at
and
least
I can't
asked
handle
her a
that.
question.
Yeah, at least he asked her a question.
I
right.
thought that Chris Wallace did the best possible job that could be done with these two. I felt that he asked each of them very piercing questions. He went after the Donald on the issue of women in the statements, and he didn't let loose. He made him go and answer it. He talked to Hillary about the Clinton Foundation. He didn't do fact check, but he didn't let them snow him either. I thought that all the other people who moderated these debates ought to go take a look at this tape and learn how it's supposed to be done. I felt he was objective. I don't think he favored either one side or the other, and I think as a result, we had a very good debate performance. Does anybody else have anything they want to add for our audience before we say goodnight?
Go Trump.
Yes, Ms.
Since
Jeanette.
we are filming in Palm Springs in the Inland Empire and I did attend the desert trip, I'm going to have to say Roger Waters did tell me whom to vote for. And make America Mexican again, but also African American, also Asian, also European.
Norwegian.
You mean make America a melting pot again?
Well, I guess he was going around the concert telling people make America Mexican again, which was
Whatever.
It was open, yes,
That's open
melting
mic
pot.
night, huh?
Okay, folks, I hope this conversation has given you some ideas. We always do these live right after the debate, before all the talking heads get a chance to give you propaganda and brainwash you according to whatever their agendas are. We pick people who are working people in everyday life. I try and get as many different ideas and viewpoints as I can. Being in Palm Springs, sometimes it's really hard to find Democrats, but we do honestly look for them. And I hope that these shows have been helpful to you in reaching your decision, because our only goal is to present ideas so that you decide who it is that you want to entrust in our future. The most important thing is to go and vote. You have to do that. If you don't, as Peggy used to tell all her students, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain about what happens next. So we will be talking again. Thank you for joining us, and good night, and we'll go back to our regular program.
Thank you, Clark.
Thank you. Good job.